Hey, can you find a water bottle for me?
Something so simple.
Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, August 23rd. Let's start with some good news for a change. Big news in philanthropy. The Walton Family Charitable Support Foundation, one of a couple of big family foundations that the heirs of the Walmart fortune operate, and which this particular one devotes its attention to higher education, has given a $120 million gift to the University of Arkansas, said to be the largest of its kind, to establish a School of Art at the University of Arkansas. There is a fine arts program there, but this will expand it dramatically. It's a 5-year commitment. It will increase facilities, it will increase staff, it will increase scholarship help. It's an ennobling thing, really. Nobody really contends, although you can make a lot of money in art, that art is necessarily a commercial enterprise like some of the things that have been focused on in recent years in Arkansas and at the university. This is just a good liberal art education thing and a fine thing. I am interested what promises the university has made the Waltons on how the money will be spent. This is raised, of course, because when the Waltons gave $300 million some years ago, it led to the establishment of an education reform unit that's become deeply political and very influential in education policy circles. Art isn't necessarily political, but of course it can be. Some people's idea of what's art and some people's idea is what not are sometimes two entirely different things. It must be said that the Waltons, in operating and supporting the Crystal Bridges Museum of American History in Bentonville, have had a very diverse and wide-ranging view of art and have opened the doors there to all sorts of art. So perhaps that's an indication the University of Arkansas gift will be operated in the same way. Back in the state capitol, legislators are still fighting and resisting in some quarters. The House and Senate are split on the matter on extending a contract with an accounting firm, multi-million-dollar, multi-year deal with a big accounting firm that serves the Department of Human Services. The most important thing here is a split between the legislature and the governor. The governor thinks the legislature is encroaching on his powers. Of course, that's true. A constitutional amendment passed a couple of years ago specifically gave them review authority over administrative rules of state agencies, and that's been interpreted to include some accounting procedures. So the governor has a problem. He's trying to work this out amicably. Not yet a lawsuit in the works. Might be interesting to have one and put the Arkansas Supreme Court on the spot on who they'd side with, the governor or the legislature. That might be a toss-up. The monthly report on people covered by the Medicaid expansion in Arkansas is out, down a little bit more. We're already down 27,000 people from the peak on who we're serving, and this is before the new waivers take effect that Governor Hutchinson wants to reduce the rolls of people served by Medicaid even further. It's kind of a slow death. It happens without noticing, but I think the 27,000 people who no longer have coverage probably noticed it. Speaking of the efficiency of state government, the Arkansas Nonprofit News Network reported, John Lyon, writing for that agency, said that the state health department has an enormous backlog, 11,000 requests for vital records from their department. That includes birth certificates, death certificates. This is a terrible thing because if you have to wait 6 or 7 weeks or more for a birth certificate, that can affect you getting a driver's license, affects you getting a passport, a lot of important things. Now the health department says they'll serve you same day if you can get to Little Rock. If you're a poor person down in Chico County, it might be hard to get up to Little Rock to get that certificate you need. The governor says they're working to improve this situation. Attorney General Leslie Rutledge boasted yesterday that she's one of the lead writers of a brief before the U.S. Supreme Court that argues in favor of discrimination against gay people. She doesn't put it that way, of course. What she says is she's protecting religious freedom. Her idea of religious freedom is to deny commercial services to gay people if you don't think it's right to serve those people. And that, of course, would include an employment and work history, too, carried to its logical conclusion. This is the case of the florist in Washington that doesn't want to sell flowers to gay people for their wedding ceremony. That was same sort of argument argued in the 1960s. People didn't want to serve fried chicken to black people because their religion said black people weren't equal. Same story, different version today. Over in Fort Smith, the city council over there is defying the Freedom of Information Act by conferring privately by email about city council decisions. This isn't the first time the city council over there has done it. The school board over there has done it too. There's something in the water in Fort Smith that just resists the law and as it applies to them. Joey McCutcheon, a flamboyant trial lawyer, has filed a suit over it. I think he's right about this. It'd be nice if the public agents did the public's business in public, and if they didn't want to do that, perhaps they shouldn't be in public office. But that seems to be the Fort Smith way. And speaking of Fort Smith, Jake Files, the state senator who's in a heap of trouble, civil for sure because of debts of his construction company, and is also apparently being investigated by the FBI on how state money was used in a project he was involved in. Well, the Democratic Party says enough is enough. He ought to resign from his position. I called for this 6 months or so ago. Otherwise he's going to sit in the Senate in January and pass judgment on state financial matters. It would do better if he'd leave his office and let somebody else take his place. MSNBC, Morning Joe this morning had the first break on some audio excerpts from Hillary Clinton's new book about the 2016 election, what happened. Some pretty interesting stuff. I think she's going to be a little more revealing than she's been in the past. She referred to Donald Trump as a creep when he hovered over her menacingly during the second TV debate not long after the tapes had come out about him assaulting women. She wonders if she should have done it differently. Instead of grinning and bearing it and going on, whether she should have turned to him and called him down for the creep that he is. Who knows? You know, that was then and now is now. She lost. There's no changing that. Speaking of Trump, an amazing rally last night. The man who was all unity and nice talk the day before went back to campaign mode in Arizona yesterday. He was self-absorbed, egotistical, reckless. He was inaccurate on a number of points, as he usually is, stirring things up by at the same time he was calling for unity, talking about how they are trying to steal our history and heritage. Well, we know what that's a dog whistle for. It's a sign of approval to the white supremacists, the neo-Nazis, the KKK, and the others, the immigrant banishers who believe, like Donald Trump does, that there's this other out there that somehow is trying to take our heritage away from us, as if white people in America somehow are getting an unfair ride in the country today. Well, that's Donald Trump. The criticism was brutal. Several people, including a former top national security official, don't think he's competent to be president. They're afraid that he has the nuclear codes in his possession. I think he still enjoys strong support among the people who elected him, so we might as well settle in for a long ride. Doesn't mean we can't resist. I will. I hope you do too. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.